Welcome to APCUG's Wednesday workshops, where we get together in the middle of the week to learn more about technology. This is the third Wednesday of the month, so that means it's a Learning Linux time. And today we have a number of good topics that I think you'll enjoy. And later on, you can pipe in and share some information with us. The schedule today, or Cal is going to start things off a little bit with some software information that he's going to do. I'm going to take the couple questions of the month, a simple one and then one a little bit bigger. Orv will then do his taming the terminal session, and then I'll come back with the desktop environment showcase of the month. And then after all questions have been taken care of, we'll have our open Q&A time for a little while afterwards and see what other things people have to share. So at this time, I think we'll start things off. I'm going to switch over, or I'm going to switch the chair over to Cal, and he's going to be sharing some software information.
Okay. Am I coming through, John?
You're good. Okay.
So I'd like to talk about some open source cross-platform applications. Now, most of the time, people come to me and they ask, what Windows programs will run on Linux? Now I'm going to turn it around and say, okay, well, what Linux programs will run on Windows? And the question is, why? Why would I want Linux apps? And I could substitute in there, why would I want open source apps? Because virtually the vast majority of Linux apps are open source apps. And if I put it all in one word, without proof, it's transparency. People can see the source code. This leads to, in general, better privacy, security, and also thousands of people all over the world help it, support it. So you have a distributed support. Also, it is shared. Rather than given, I think of it as shared, and it doesn't cost anything. But there are lots of other free programs. But with the open source, there's not this hidden agenda. So you get less commercial tracking, if any, and you don't get people keeping nagging you to upgrade to the non-free version. And why would you want a cross-platform? Cross-platform in this case would mean that the program would run on Linux, it run on Windows, and it run on Mac. And the simplest thing is, well, if you've got a couple of these type of machines for yourself or in your family, you can use the same program. So you don't have to keep switching different protocols and formats and so forth. And from my perspective, I suggest this so that people who are running Windows and Mac and are thinking about going to Linux can get a group of programs that they learn on the machine that they're familiar with. And then if they go to Linux, then they'll also be able to use these programs. The programs that are cross-platform are generally of higher quality. They're newer because they have to be made for many more people. So they get lots more feedback and they have to make sure it works for a wider variety. So what I have is just a few examples of some popular cross-platform programs. And these are all graphic. They're not terminal. So if you start off with, I've kind of grouped some, and the first group would be all kinds of graphics programs. I often recommend Digicam. It's a great photo editor. It's not too complicated, but it does give enough control that a lot of people need. If you're really into editing and layers and more complicated things, GIMP is the photo editor that's the most popular. If you need non-destructive type of editing, where you're running a whole bunch in a row, then Darktable. There's Krita, which is really a painting tool, and also a photo editor. There's Inkscape for design. This would be a vector graphics program rather than your bitmap graphics. And there's a couple more. There's animation, and Blender is very well known for 3D design. If you want to mess with your photo metadata, there's Fotini. And if you need have a nice camera that needs the raw, you want the raw image, and you need to convert it, then Raw Therapy is very well known. And some more, I've got some, if you're into printing, there's a 3D model slicer, there's drafting with QCAD. If you make DVDs, there's also a genealogy in Gramps. And there's all types of math. If you're very sophisticated math, Scilab has just a large variety of technical type math tools. There's PSPP for statisticians, and Octave will allow you to plot the results. Many of these come out in tabular form. If you're really into it and you know the R language, then RStudio is an IDE that you can use to develop. There's Mandelberger for 3D fractals. And there's a bunch of Firefox is, when we go to the internet, Firefox is mostly the default web browser, although you can use any web browser that you want. There are chat programs and so forth. Office, there's quite a bit of Office programs. LibreOffice is the suite that is most powerful, like Microsoft Office. You have email clients at Thunderbird. You have ebook manager and Caliber. And if you need the desktop publishing control, there's Scribus. Plenty of audio, video types of applications. Audacity and Ardor for your kind of workstation approach. FreeAC for your audio conversion from one type of file to another. If you actually make music, you can analyze it with Sonic Visualizer. And there's plenty of video, Kdenlive and OpenShot are very popular for editing, and OBS Studio is used by a lot of podcasters to stream video. And VLC, as we often say, will play anything. There's a wide variety of applications if you're a coder. There are a lot of games. Generally, they're simpler games. And there's weird stuff like if you design circuits, or there's lots of planetarium software. Stellarium is very popular. I've used it quite a bit myself. For finance, econometrics, if you're with Gretel, if you need that type of analysis. GNU Cache is sort of the QuickBooks, and Kmon Money is sort of the Quicken alternative. And there are lots of system software. Generally, a lot of these are useful. Sometimes I recommend people stay with the system software that's designed specifically for their platform. But these have all worked cross-platform. So my summary is that there are many cross-platform open source projects that will meet your software needs, but how do you find them? Well, I think a good way is to find a list of Linux applications, and then you can go to the developer work site and see if other platforms are supported. And I would advise only going to the developer website so you know that it's not been messed with. And generally, most developers that have these websites, and you can check their credentials and comments from other users so that you know that they're all safe and will honor your privacy. So
Now, will you please define IDE?
Integrated Development Environment. That's where you can do the code and see the results kind of within the same envelope of operations.
Thank you.
Very good, Cal. As we have said, Windows users who are used to using these cross-platform programs have very little trouble making the switch to the Linux, so that you are going from programs that you know to a very secure, free operating system. We're always interested in knowing other good cross-platform programs, so you can always submit those into the chat box or share them at the end during our open Q&A time.